Alright, now you're ready to put on some axles on your toy. So the first thing you want to do is get some generic length axles from Mr.R. You'll need 5 of them. Some of these, it's a generic length, so some might be too short and some might be a little bit too long. Too long isn't a problem. They can be filed off later. If they're too short, you're going to need to come bring these back to Mr. Reinwald and he'll make some for you. Okay. Now on your toy, you're going to want to make sure first that your axle will freely turn in the hole you drilled, which should be a 932 hole in your toy. Okay, so I realize the video before this said 17/64. We have found that 932 does work a little bit better, gives you a little bit less resistance. The axle turns a little easier, a little more freedom. So that's what you would want on that, and when I figure it out, I will go edit that film. Next up we want is to check the dowel length. Okay. Well, actually, before we check the dowel length, we want to test the dowel. Take your wheels, and if you have to shove real hard to get them on, or if you have to beat them on with a hammer, they're too tight. So I took and drilled a 17/64 hole, and I want to put that dowel in it, and I want to check to see how sloppy it is. If it's sloppy, we want to stick with the hole we already have in at 1/4 inch. If it's not sloppy, we want to go back and re-drill these holes with the 17/64 drill bit. Okay, then when you've got it, it should slide on relatively easy, but not be sloppy. If your axle is sloppy on there, but when you're done gluing, it's going to be on an angle and it's going to flop around, kind of act like a Flintstone mobile going down the trail or countertop or whatever you have it on. All right, so now let's check your axle length. Okay, we can fit these in. Here's my pretend toy. Put it through. Slide the other one on. This one is a little bit tight, but it's not bad. Okay, you want these flush. Okay, with both of them flush, easy way to do that is set it down just lightly. Tap. You shouldn't have any gaps, but you really shouldn't be able to feel it. If it's under, that one is a little tight. Let's make it go under just a touch. If it's under, I can feel there's a gap. You want to just lightly tap it back out. You don't feel it, it's good. So you want to put it through, take your other one, put it on. When it's nice and flush, you should have some clearance, so that will freely turn. Okay, if it's in tight where it's restricting it, that axle's too short. You need to bring it to Mr. Reinwald and he'll cut some for you. Okay, if it's too long sticking out, that's fine. When we glue it on, we can take a file and file it down. Okay, but with them both flush, we want just a little bit of clearance. You don't want a whole lot, but just a little bit, so it'll freely turn. Alright, so we got our dowel length checked. You want to make sure your wheels are good and clean. you might have gone and re-drilled the wheels out to that 17/64 like we said. Sand that off, get it good and clean. Now we all make mistakes, we all have boo-boos on things. You want to hide those as best we can. Is it easier to see a mistake out here or in by the body of the car, which is 3/4 hidden? The only spot it's visible is right there. If it's something that can't just be sanded out, I would put it in there. Okay. If it's something else, I would make a new wheel. Okay, so putting your wheels on. Nope, that is it. That's still kind of snug. Mr. Reinwald makes these dowels in the wood shop, so some of the variation, the diameter is going to be slightly different. This one is a little bit snug, but it'll still be okay. Alright, I was just about to start gluing things onto my pretend toy when I noticed there's enough variation in these dowels that I have that I checked one and I can actually do this. That is too much resistance. So we drilled that at a 932, but we're going to want to go one size even bigger so that dowel will freely spin in there because we don't want that kind of resistance. So I'm going to go drill these one size bigger than the 932. Alright, so I re-drilled the hole with the 19/64, so let's see how that does. Alright, it's got a little bit of slop and it freely turns. That's what we want. We don't want a whole lot of slop, but we want it freely. So you're going to have to check your axles, your dowels, and find out. So a lot of times that 932 will work just fine. This one needed the 19/64s. All right, now we are ready to glue things on. So we're going to take just a little bit of glue, not much at all, just a little bit, and then I'm just going to kind of like hover my finger over it, not actually touching the dowel, and spread that around. Okay, so I want to look at my insides. Remember, we all make mistakes, we all get dings, maybe a little chip in there or something, and see, you know, if it's something that easily can be sanded off, put it on the outside. If it's something, a chip in here or something that will be hidden by the block, put it on the inside. Okay, so I'm going to set that and I'm just going to lightly tap and listen to the sound. You'll hear when it bottoms out. So I'm putting a little down pressure with my fingers. Right when it bottomed. Okay. If it is too tight, you're going to crack out your wheel. Okay, that one was actually kind of pushing it. Okay, I'm going to wipe off the excess, take it to a paper towel and clean your finger. Make sure where you're putting this on your toy is good and clean. You'd want to sand that off, everything. Put it through. Get your other one, choose your side. If it has a little chip on the inside or something, choose that to go in. So I'd put that up because I want that on my inside. Now we got to watch for squeeze out. Okay, we wiped it off on the other side. This side, we're not going to get that option because it's going to be hidden. So I'm just going to lightly, in fact, I'm going to take a clean finger and go around right in, excuse me, closer. Then I'm going to take those off. Now I'm going to set it right over the hole. Make sure we're started on square and straight. Slowly turn it, whatever we need to do. Make sure it's square. You don't want it cocked on an angle. Make sure it's square. Carefully set it up and down. Make sure you're square. Tap it down and listen for it. Now, should be good and smooth. Just a little bit of sanding with the grain and it'll be clean, ready to go. Alright, should freely turn. Then you can take these. When you get your toy done, put it in your locker, let it dry overnight. Then go on to your next step.